Hi there, welcome to another episode of My Experiences Audio Journeys. It's that burning question. Have you ever been ghosted or have you ghosted someone? I feel like it's a question that just about anybody can answer. Stay with me and we're going to talk about it. The first question that might come to mind is, what is ghosting? If I had to define ghosting myself, I would say you just never hear from the person again. Everything could be fine 1 minute and the next, boom, they're gone. No explanation. No text, no call, no reach out on social media. Radio silence. Now, ghosting can be extremely painful, especially if it's the first time that you're experiencing it. That's why I do not recommend ghosting someone. The first thing that's going to happen is you're going to blame yourself. If it was a love interest, you're going to romanticize every little interaction you had with the person. It's also important to understand that ghosting can affect any relationship. Romantic, family relationships, co-workers, friendships, you name it. There's no unspoken boundary lines. It affects all relationships. Thankfully, we can't be ghosted by our pets. Human relationships, unfortunately, are impacted. Often, it can take weeks to months to get through it. It can trigger feelings of abandonment, anger, anxiety. It can potentially damage your self-esteem and also cause trust issues. Now, this is something that the ghoster doesn't really take into account when they decide to disappear. Maybe it's not even a conscious decision to disappear, but it's not something they think about because ghosting is a selfish act. They're thinking about their own discomfort, not how you're feeling. They're not really going to think about how this might affect you down the road or how it might affect them, because ghosters feel things too. But if you know anything about the phenomenon, you know that 90% of the time it is because the other person is trying to avoid conflict. Maybe they're no longer interested and they don't know how to say it. It could be any number of reasons, but these are the most common reasons why people choose to disappear. Now, I'm going to keep it 100. I have been ghosted multiple times, and I have also been the ghoster multiple times. I once vowed that I would never put another person through that kind of pain because I know what it feels like. I've been through it, But there are certain situations where I believe it is warranted. Now, like I said, I'm not trying to condone it, but in my situation, I felt there was no other choice. I felt that's what I had to do. But the problem is, once you've done it once, it gets easier and easier to continue to do it. Now, I could research this and go into all the percentages, the percentage rate of how many people are affected by this, but I'm not going to do that because there's still a high amount of people that are probably not going to admit that it's happened to them. There's not really any way of knowing exactly how many people this happens to. I think it's a fair statement to say that most of the general population has experienced it. Now, I'm going to share a number of situations that I feel warrant ghosting. If there's no other way out and you feel like you need to get away from this person for your safety or whatnot. So if you feel like your life is in danger and the person is a stalker or an online scammer, if the person won't take no for an answer and you've told them before that you're no longer interested or just not interested at all, and they still push, you might have to end things by ghosting, unfortunately. Another good example, of course, would be toxic relationships. When you're dealing with any of these scenarios, you have to start thinking about self-preservation mode. Under any other circumstances, I personally feel that ghosting is wrong. It damages the confidence and self-esteem of the person that is on the receiving end of it, and it also harms the person that is doing it. They have to live with the guilt and the consequences, and sometimes they come back. Now, chances are, if they do come back, they're coming back for the wrong reasons. I'm not saying there's never a situation where the person might come back to make it right, to apologize, but most of the time they're coming back for the wrong reasons, and you have to decide in that moment whether or not you want to let that person back in, because there's a high percentage of ghosters coming back and then ghosting again and putting you through all that pain a second time, a third time. Don't let it happen. Don't let them do that to you over and over and over again. You're better than that. Now, of course, if you're a good person and you have any amount of empathy, you're not going to feel good about yourself just ignoring the person, just ghosting the ghoster back. But the problem is, if you decide to let them back in, you know what the consequences could potentially be. It's one of those things you have to just sit back and think really hard when you get that text or you get that call or you get that message on social media. You have to ask yourself, do I want to revisit this? Is this going to be something that will potentially harm me further in the future and harm the other person? And then you have to make your decision based on the information that you have, based on the past. I'm sure you've heard that saying, the past foretells the future. I'm a firm believer myself in forgiveness. I'll be the first person that'll forgive somebody like 70 times 7 or whatever the Bible says, okay? So whether you believe in that stuff or not, there are circumstances where I feel that it's better to just forgive the person from afar, love them from afar. It doesn't mean you have to let them back into your life so they can continue to hurt you over and over again. And believe me, I'm not just a talking head here. I have learned the hard way when I was ghosted by someone I cared about and they came back, I let them back in, and what do you think happened? They disappeared again. It's excruciating the second time because you're like, I let them back in, I trusted them, and then I gave them my heart, and then they just, boom, they just vanish again. That is proof they came back for the wrong reason. If they come back for the right reason, they're not going to disappear again. And it really is a personal decision whether or not you want to go in that direction, forgive them, let them back in, and try to rebuild. But it's not an easy task. The trust is still broken, and you have to work on rebuilding the broken trust. Otherwise, it's always going to be hanging there between the two of you. You know what I'm saying? It'll always be there. Unfortunately, in this modern society that we live in, ghosting has become acceptable. Like I said, I once told myself I will never do that to somebody. And now that I've done it, even if it was for a very good reason to protect my own safety, it's become easier and easier to repeat it. And I don't like that. It's something I want to change. It's one of those learned behaviors that done once or twice, it can become a habit. Having been on the giving and receiving end of this, I can talk openly about it. I can talk about the anguish that I felt being ghosted, and I can also talk about the guilt that I felt as the ghoster. Even though walking away might be the best choice in some scenarios, I still think about the people that I ghosted. I wonder how it affected them, how they got through it. Under normal circumstances, I think it's important that we sit down and tell them how we feel. But like I said, it's become commonplace. Unless it involves a situation where your life is at risk or something, if you're a person that is considering ghosting someone, do the right thing first. Tell the person you're not interested, you're no longer interested. Of course, the other person is going to push back. They're going to try to talk you out of it. But do the right thing. You, me, all of us. We can save someone months of suffering and pain. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to be the reason that somebody can't sleep at night. We can all do better. We just have to reach inside ourselves, help each other. And if you're the one who's been ghosted, remember, you're not alone. Those are my thoughts on ghosting. If you found my channel, thank you so much for listening.